Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Mitacs case study webinar on municipal innovation. It's really quite a pleasure to have the opportunity to be offering you this study and this webinar today, and this testimony from our guests, which I hope and very much confident you will appreciate. So perhaps jumping right into things. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm located on unceded Indigenous lands at the foot of Mont Royal in Jojo Gay, or Montreal. The mountain, we like to call it a mountain, it's maybe a little bit more of a mountain, but its imposing presence in the center of the islands with views of the river and majestic forests made it a choice location and a gathering place for Indigenous peoples traveling through the region thousands of years ago. Today, Jojogay is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other people in the Montreal community. I'd like to maybe now to pass it to Sylvie, who will also say a word. Sylvie?
Hi, welcome everyone. Bonjour à tous. My name is Sylvie Plante, and I'm Senior Advisor, Strategic Partnerships in the Business Development Team of Mitacs. And I'm located on the unceded, unsurrendered Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. We take this time to show our gratitude and respect to the Anishinaabe Nation and to the land that connects us. And I'd like to encourage everyone to identify also your location in the chat if you like. And then pass it on to Jean-Philippe with a poll to get more of a sense of who we are here in this virtual gathering and where we're located.
Indeed, great opportunity while we meet on this virtual platform to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands on which we are located. So I'd like to ask my colleague Shannon to begin the poll. So we'll just start with a quick poll asking you where you are from today. So you should have something popping on your screen. There we are. Excellent. I can't click myself. I don't know if anyone else can click.
No, the hosts and panelists don't get to click.
Damn, that's unfortunate. Okay, we'll just give it a few, give this a few seconds while our guests answer the poll, and then we'll quickly move on to a second quick poll right after this. Okay, I think we can. I think we can maybe. I think we can maybe stop the poll now. I can't. Shannon, I'm sorry, I can't see the results of the poll. I'm not sure. Oh, there we are. Okay, that's awesome. People from Ontario, Quebec. Wow, great to see so many of you from all across the country. That's fantastic. All right, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. So maybe quickly moving on to a second poll, just to get a sense for what type of organization you work for. Shannon, if you could kindly start the poll, we would very much appreciate. And that'll give us an opportunity to maybe to tweak some of the content to better address your the type of organizations that you work for. Much appreciated. Shannon, if you feel that we've got enough respondees, maybe maybe we can stop the poll at this time and show the results. That's what we were seeing also from the registrations. A lot of people from university. Great to see so many of you present today, and we will certainly be giving this this case study a good take on you know how the university aspect of things, but also for municipalities. That's really great. So thank you so much for that. Moving right along, maybe just a few points of, before we move to the agenda, a few points of logistics. We do invite you to ask questions in the chat box. We will be taking most questions after the panel, after the speakers have outlined their experience through this project that we're really happy to be sharing with you today. If there are any very specific questions that you feel are, would be where it would be a good time for our speakers to address during the panel conversation, we will try to bring those into the conversation as well. But I think I would prefer that we address most of those questions after the panel. You can also please ask questions in French. Sylvie and I will be gladly be able to, if need be, translate questions. We do have a few of our panelists that are fluent as well in French, so that might be a possibility as well. And just a quick word to say that presentations will be made available after the event, so we can also share this information with you at that time. And basically that's it. So I think that for starters, I'd like to introduce my colleague Raj Sharma, who's our esteemed COO. He's held senior leadership positions in local government sector in BC, most recently as the CFO for the city of Abbotsford. And Raj has successfully led the development of sustainable financial plans, funding major municipal and health infrastructure projects in BC. And we're super glad to have Raj with us today, who can briefly introduce Mitacs and say a few words about our organization. Raj, off to you.
Thank you, JP, and good morning, everyone. My name is Raj Sharma, and I come to you from Abbotsford, located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Seamat First Nation, and the Matsqui First Nation. And with this, I respect the longstanding relationship that Indigenous nations have to this land, as they are the original caretakers. Very excited to be here. I have a past life in the municipal sector here in BC, where I had an opportunity to work with the regional government, the regional district model here in BC, and most recently, I was also the CFO for the city of Abbotsford. So I saw some of you participants are from the municipal side, and I can assure you that I understand the challenges that you face on a daily basis, making decisions with always doing more with less, as I was in your chair not so long ago, and trying to make some of these tough decisions. After that, I made the transition over and came over to Mitacs, which has been an amazing transition, and especially kind of helping all these sectors here in Canada and trying to make an impact on the innovation ecosystem of the country. Mitacs is a national, independent, not-for-profit that really fosters the growth and innovation. And the way I see it is it's an enabler. It's a bridge builder that helps various different sectors. And we're very happy and pleased now that we're able to work with municipalities, especially because municipalities deal with grassroots issues and problems that impact people on a daily basis. And if we are able to really come in and help and partner with them to create some solutions that can alleviate some of the pressures, the cost pressures, the competing priorities that you face, that's a win-win for everybody and for our country. So Mitacs is, as innovation made easy is our tagline, and really hoping that I can bring my experience and help connect and make this bridge even more to help some of the problems that we face collectively. So next slide, please. So Mitacs, I just wanted to provide a quick overview that, we, as I mentioned, a national not-for-profit, and it's funded by the federal government. Our most recent funding agreement was $708 million from the federal government. And then we are very generously funded by all the provinces in Canada and then Yukon. So national presence, a lot of trust, and a lot of rich history to go with, where we've made some tremendous impact on the ecosystem of our country. So a very trustworthy organization that has a very rich past and a lot of projects to go with. So just kind of wanted to start by that, and also acknowledging all our funders to be able to putting their trust in Mitacs and helping us make that difference on a daily basis. As an organization, if we can go to the next slide, please. As an organization, we are governed under the Not-for-Profit Act, and we have a board of directors which come from every walks of different walks of life and are experts in their area, from the industry side of things, from the academic sector, from businesses. So they provide governance to our organization. And our chair is based in Montreal. And then we have an executive management team. John Hepburn, who's our CEO, provides the executive oversight. And then, of course, there's the executive management team and all the team members that work together to really advance the innovation agenda for the country. We have a strategic plan that was approved last year, and the strategic plan has got some strategic pillars identified. It has got strategic priorities identified, with really focus being on how can Mitacs continue to empower the Canadian innovation ecosystem. I also want to highlight that one of the key pillars of our strategic plan is equity, diversity, and inclusion. And very happy to see one of our esteemed colleagues, Candace, on the call, that, and she probably is going to be on the panel and she can talk more about this, but the organization remains very focused to make sure that, we are able to do a lot of work on the EDI front, and making sure that we also work very closely with our Indigenous people as well to provide opportunities on the ecosystem front as well. So our strat plan is our guiding document. It's our driving document, and we try to live, drink, breathe that every day. And we continue to do more and more work to be able to make sure that we are enabled to push that strategic plan forward and really continue to do good work on a daily basis. Moving forward, next slide, please. Just want to provide you guys with a quick overview of Mitacs by the numbers. As I said, we've been around for over 20 plus years now. We're an organization with an operating budget of over $300 million. So it's an organization that has grown tremendously, with a lot of work happening not only with the feds, as I mentioned, but also with the provincial, all the provinces in Canada. One of our unique abilities is that our team of over 100 advisors who are at the ground level working and embedded, and some of them also embedded within the post-secondary institutions, and happy to see so many people from the university sector here. And they work with professors, they work with the academics to define problems and find solutions, and then connect and be that the bridge or the enabler they can to connect with some real-time solution, to come up with real-time solutions. So we call that our secret sauce. We call that something that makes a huge difference in really finding solutions to complex problems. As you can see, we've invested quite a lot, and we continue, and we actually look forward to being able to invest more into the innovation ecosystem for country. We are national. We are spread out across the country with 4 offices, and we're looking, and we're really hungry to even partner more and make a sizable difference, and continue to be able to help you guys in making and come up with some real innovative solutions for our country. So that's Mitacs by numbers, and I think this is where I am supposed to be handing it back to JP, but I'm here, and again want to reinforce that I understand the municipal world, as I was part of that. So happy to answer any questions. Happy to connect outside of this as well to provide any other information that you may need. But let's find ways to partner, and let's find a way to make a difference together. So thank you for this opportunity, and happy to answer any questions.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so very much, Raj. Much appreciated. I'll, in the interest of time, I'm going to go pretty quickly over my little bit of this presentation, just to give a little bit more context about the role that we played in this project, and we'll cover all this in quite a bit more detail in just a few minutes. I thought I might just run you through a few more specifics about Mitacs and about this webinar specifically. We've seen so many projects with municipalities these past 2 years. We've tried to outline a few different key projects that illustrate the different ways in which municipalities and academia have worked together, sometimes in collaboration with large vendors or startup companies or other partners as well. And this is the second webinar in a series of what we hope will be maybe 6 webinars in the coming year to outline those different models. And we're very happy to be able to present to you. Other models will focus namely on municipal research chairs that we're seeing in Quebec. So Raj has covered some of this, but we're super happy to be that municipalities are now admissible to our programs. We are the ultimate recipients, us as citizens of innovation, and we know that there's so many challenges municipalities are faced with that we're super glad to be able to assist with. We've received over 275 projects in the past 2 years by 140 municipalities with so many academic institutions, a lot of those projects being focused on sustainability and the environment. And we're happy to be able to keep supporting those initiatives. Applications can be submitted to Mitacs anytime. As Raj just mentioned, we're aware that there are a lot of challenges, as we've seen. We'll see a bit in a few seconds over the statistics. Climate action, infrastructure, housing, sustainable communities are very much the topic of the projects that we're seeing at Mitacs. And we also are very much aware that there are many barriers within municipalities to allow you to tackle and address those challenges, many of them being lack of data, lack of analysis, lack of expertise, quite often insufficient budget and time. I believe those are all things that we can assist with. And as we hear a lot, the complexity of the innovation ecosystem. Where do we go? What do you do? How does this work? Where do I start? So those are all things that Mitacs can assist with. In a nutshell, what we bring to the table is a flexible funding system and connections with universities and colleges. That is very much the strength of the organization. These connections, these projects that we help you undertake, they give you access to expertise and talent more and more. I think it's hard to recruit and to bring the best to our organizations. These programs also allow you to do that. We've heard from the words of municipal leaders that this is a bit of a way to afford an in-house expert, which quite often you don't have the capacity to afford, and it brings to you students that are eager to learn. These programs are open to municipalities, economic development organizations, obviously nonprofits, companies, and hospitals. There's a few different areas in which we can assist. We can assist with innovation projects and applied research projects, roughly same kind. It's got to be something that allows you to tackle a question that keeps you up at night. I guess that's a good tagline to describe the kinds of initiatives that we can help support. If you've got a new idea, a new concept, you want to try something, the answer is not out there, you're not quite sure how to go about it. There might be an opportunity to go to a consultant, but it might require some additional expertise. I think many of those projects are a great opportunity to undertake in collaboration with academia. And in many cases, it's obviously a way for you to acquire new data and knowledge. There's also, for quite a few years now, been an opportunity to work with SSHRC. And for that part, I will leave it to my colleague Sylvie to tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, JP was speaking about connections, and Mitacs and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council have had a partnership for 10 years, which is relevant to this researcher in residence initiative, as we'll see. And so we continue to work on improving the alignment of our funding opportunities so that it's possible for researchers and projects to access funding from both SSHRC and Mitacs in a more efficient and easier way.
Merci beaucoup, Sylvie. Appreciate it. So super quickly, just so you get a sense, I think a lot of people on this call probably know about what we do and how these programs work. But for those that might not know, just so that it's very crystal clear, what we do is we offer grants. These grants, on the average, there's a few different formulas. They will cover half the cost of a project. There's a structure, there are modules, you can make it a big project or a small one, so there's a lot of flexibility there. The yearly value for a lot of these will be anywhere between $30,000 to $80,000. So you put in $15,000, we'll put in $15,000, $30,000 will be generated, and this might go to support an undergrad, graduate student, postdoctoral fellow, and work with colleges as well. So there's quite a lot of flexibility in what you can do with these programs. And perhaps one of the key ingredients of the programs are that there's going to be a research intern working directly with you. We typically wish for the intern to be there on location, on premises, roughly 50% of their time. Obviously, with the pandemic, there's a bit of flexibility there. But the objective is not for these projects to happen behind closed walls in the university and you won't ever know like what's happening with my project. No, the objective is for you to work very closely with your academic partners. That being said, we often get asked, where do I start? Well, you start by talking to us. There's a very strong involvement from Mitacs, if you so wish, for us to help you along, to explain to you how the programs work, to sit down, to get a sense for whether or not the project you might be considering is something that might be admissible at Mitacs. We can take you through the conversation as well of connecting with academia, and we'll do that for you. We will identify the best team for you to work with. Professors also that have got students available, so we'll facilitate that conversation. There's, as Raj was saying, about 100 and over 100, maybe 150, 120 of us who are part of the advisor team at Mitacs that can sit down with you and have that conversation. So typically you sit down, we talk together about what the initiative, what your project you might be considering, and we'll help you. We'll help you craft a proposal. We'll obviously put you in touch with a research team, and all together you can submit an application to Mitacs. And once the application is peer reviewed and hopefully approved, then you can start your project. So that's a bit of a quick sense of the timeline. We talking about connections, we've got a very broad, very broad network. I think Mitacs has got to be the strongest, if not the only organization that can connect you with any municipal lab across the country. What I've put here is just a few of the specific, with any lab across the country, but the ones I'm showing here are specifically municipal labs in some of the larger universities and colleges across Canada. We're also working very hard to tailor collaborations with other organizations, SHARK being one of them, of course. The FCM with the Green Municipal Fund program is something we're working on right now. We're hoping to have to be able to suggest a way in which you can benefit from both the Green Municipal Fund, for example, and the Mitacs programs. Quick sense for statistics, as you'll see on the left-hand side, the big green red chunk there is social sciences and arts projects. So the bulk of what we're funding with municipalities is in social sciences and humanities. And on the right-hand side, as you can see, a lot of projects in public governance, environment, sustainability. That's the bulk of the projects we're seeing. Moving right along, before I pass it to my colleague Sylvie, just a few more case studies. Once I do share this presentation, I've added a whole bunch more of other examples that might give you a sense of or an idea as to how these programs might be applicable to you. But we've got 4 examples here. On the top left with the Halifax Regional Municipality, a project on urban forest management. On the top right, how to solve labor shortage and foreign worker integration into the workforce. So the district of Pontiac was running a pilot project to see if there was something they could do to support the resettlement of immigrant workers. On the bottom left, pathways to a more inclusive labor market with Calgary Economic Development. And on the bottom right, with the regional municipality of Durham and Ontario Tech University, a micro homes pilot project to tackle homelessness. So there's a broad range of projects that we can fund. Be happy to work with you on those of specific interest. Just yesterday, this was in the news, and we're happy to be supporting this initiative. A municipal research chair with the Ville de Lévis and the University of Quebec in Rimouski. This is the second municipal research chair that is being funded in Quebec and funded and supported by Mitacs. We're very excited to be able to support this initiative. So without further ado, I think hopefully most of the, I haven't taken too much time, so this gives us a good hour to go over the researcher in residence model. It's really a pleasure, deep pleasure to be able to offer you this webinar and this case study, and I'll pass it to my colleague Sylvie, who has quite a bit of insight and into this project. Sylvie, all yours.
Well, thanks. Well, you know, in the fall of 2020, when Thompson Rivers University was getting ready to recruit its first researcher in residence, I had an opportunity to find out more about this as I was completing my own PhD dissertation at Royal Roads University. And what I learned is that this research in residence initiative builds on long-standing partnerships and relationships between TRU and the city of Kamloops, and funding that came from SHARK, that came from Mitacs, partnering with the United Way, focused initially on mapping of culture in small cities. And the university is playing a key role here in social innovation, in community engaged research within Kamloops, but the city is also providing an opportunity to apply action-oriented research to address issues like housing and homelessness, childcare, economic and cultural development. So The researcher in residence is not only a model, though. It's not just an idea. It's also a person. In this case, it's a postdoctoral fellow, Cheryl Gladu, that we'll get to speak to, with experience in community engaged research and project management and facilitation and partnerships, who acts as a bridge, as a connector between all of these partners, and supervises also undergraduate students in order to develop more sustainable long-term relationships and partnerships to achieve this systems change. So let's actually take a look at a few minutes of a video that the Researcher in Residence Initiative has put together, and that'll give us a sense of the people, of the projects, and the intentions, and then we'll pick up after that.
Okay, here we go. Hopefully this is gonna work. Whoops.
The Researcher in Residence Initiative is a new model for community-engaged research at Thompson Rivers University. This model includes 5 student researchers, a postdoctoral fellow, a supervising faculty member, support from TRU's Office of Research and Graduate Studies, a city and university advisory group, and a community partner. In this case, the city of Kamloops.
Whoops.
That is, while there is a research...
Apologies. Was everybody able to see the video right from the start? Or there seemed to be a... Okay, I hope so. Thank you, Cheryl.
Researcher in residence. The initiative is more than a person. It's a team of faculty and student investigators collaborating with city staff to co-create research questions to inform decision-making at the city of Kamloops.
On our show, we've interviewed writers in residence, artists in residence, a poet in residence, but ever heard of a researcher in residence? For the next 3 years, the city of Kamloops is going to have one. Her name is Cheryl Gladu.
I see this as a really, really wonderful opportunity for myself personally, but also to be part of a program where we're basically studying ourselves in this model to see if this model might be interesting to other cities and other communities as one they might consider replicating as well.
On October the 7th of last year, the city and TRU took another step forward by renewing their Memorandum of Understanding, building on successes and advancing the partnership. A key area to collaborate is on community-engaged research. The city and TRU have been discussing this opportunity for some time, and last summer took the conversation to an official level when Council approved a joint researcher in residence position. The position and its incidental expenses are co-funded by the city and TRU, with much gratitude to Mitacs for their significant contribution to the initiative.
The initiative is indeed both a person, Dr. Gladu, and a model for changing the way the city and the university collaborate. The city will benefit through the researcher in residence presence as I mentioned, an embedded researcher in terms of such things as project development, workshops, project management, coordination of university resources, and alignment with municipal objectives. But it's also anticipated that the Researcher in Residence initiative and the resulting research outcomes will provide a model of community-engaged research for other small cities and smaller communities across the country. While the focus may be initially on a series of important projects, the long-term goal is one of systems change, of developing a long-term sustainable relationship that naturalizes research partnership development and the co-creation of research solutions important to the communities that both organizations serve. The Researcher in Residence model promises a whole new way for cities and universities to work together.
I am a firm believer in the relationship between post-secondary education and the communities in which they are situate. I have said many times that the city's decision-making would be better informed by research, and that research being conducted right in our own backyard, as it were, to give a Kamloops lens to the kinds of problems that we are faced with every day.
Very good. Sylvie?
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And also thank you, Cheryl, and thank you Well, one of the people that we could see in the video is Tammy Robertson, who's External Relations Manager for the City of Kamloops. And she is a very important player in this project, as is Barbara Berger, who's the Arts and Community Development Manager. Neither of them were able to join us today, but they have made it possible for us to listen to the mayor, Ken Christian, share a message with us about the project.
Here we are.
Hi, I'm Ken Christian. I want to talk to you a little bit about a memorandum of understanding that we've had in place with Thompson Rivers University and the City of Kamloops for a number of years. Earlier, former President Alan Shaver and myself, when I was first elected, got together to talk about the interaction between the university and the city. In his words, he called it town and gown. It's really a commitment to work together on things like housing for students, transit, student safety, and all of the interactions that occur between a university and a city. We're fortunate that Thompson Rivers University is located right in Kamloops, and so we have this very interesting symbiotic relationship that really is good for both institutions. Out of that memorandum of understanding a few years ago, with the guidance of Will Garrett Petts, their Associate Vice President of Research, we came up with a Researcher in Residence program. It's a great idea. We were really fortunate to be able to attract Dr. Cheryl Gladue to lead that initiative here at the City of Kamloops. And Cheryl actually moved her offices into City Hall so that she could be front and center with the kinds of problems that the city runs up against every single day. And there is a great Hi, I'm Ken
Apologies
Christian,
for that.
and academic vigor into solutions for the citizens of Kamloops if we connected with the university. And through Dr. Gladue, she was able to assign different projects that came from different departments in the City of Kamloops to graduate students at the university, whether it be in social work or natural resource science or in nursing or any of the other problems that we run into day to day. She had able and willing and qualified students that were able to help. Through the support of Mitacs, we were able to fund this program, and it has proven very successful for the City of Kamloops and for the students at Thompson Rivers University. It's a win-win and something that we're very proud of. In one of the recent reports to Kamloops City Council from Dr. Gladue, the researcher in residence, she was able to outline exactly the kinds of projects that students from Thompson Rivers University assisted staff at the City of Kamloops in finding solutions for. These are things that really benefit by some academic research, the best practices review, those kinds of academic pursuits that we don't have time to do at the City of Kamloops necessarily. But students can both help us and help their careers by undertaking that research on our behalf. It's a great program. Thank you, Mitacs, for your contribution, and I hope it continues.
Sylvie, all yours. Apologies for the technical glitches.
So thank you. So I don't see that my video is there, but I am here. So I think you'll all agree that these videos and the Mitacs presentation and Raj's comments provide some useful context for this panel discussion that we're going to have. And I'll take a moment to introduce our very distinguished speakers. So Cheryl Gladue is a researcher in residence at Thompson Rivers University, and some very great words and introduction was presented here by the mayor. And Cheryl completed a interdisciplinary PhD in design and management from Concordia and moved during the pandemic from Montreal to Kamloops for this project. Dr. Will Garrett Petts is Vice President of Research at Thompson Rivers University and has really been part of the history of this Researcher in Residence initiative and did study or look into other similar models that he can perhaps speak to us and speak to us about bringing all of these partners and relationships together. Suk here Matanovic is Director of Student Research and Public Engagement, and can speak to us about how this Researcher in Residence initiative connects to the broader university, to the student experience, and to the learning not only of the Researcher in Residence, but of a number of other students and for research practice in general. Candice Loring is a fellow senior advisor at Mitacs, who's currently responsible for Indigenous relations and EDI initiatives. However, Candice was very instrumental in being that bridge that connected TRU and this particular project and the funding made possible by Mitacs. And so Candice can share her perspective there. And we're also very lucky to have Jean-Marc Nadeau, who's Chief Executive Officer of the Union of Saskatchewan Municipalities. And Jean-Marc brings a unique set of diverse experiences. He himself is currently a PhD candidate in policy development, I think, and he has a background in law as well as policing. So this is really an amazing panel that we've assembled. So without further ado, let's open up the conversation. And so do you think we can, yes, so let's open it up and let's bring up all of the panelists. And what I would like to do, and so let me say a few words as our panelists are coming back up on screen about how we might run the panels. We want to hear from everyone initially. We want to have an organic conversation. We also want to encourage all of our participants to put questions in the Q&A if you have them. And Jean-Philippe is going to be monitoring the chat, and he's going to be bringing up some of these questions a little later on. And so to set the stage for what you mentioned, this Researcher in Residence as being not only a model, but also a person and also a team, I'd like to ask Will, Dr. Petz, to say a few words about the vision, the intentions, the history behind this initiative and how it came to be. And then we can move on and speak to Cheryl about the actual experience so far.
Yeah, my pleasure, Sylvie. And thanks so much to you both for providing such a rich introduction to our program. It's great to see it framed and profiled in that manner. I'm coming to you from our main campus here in Kamloops in unceded Secwepemc territory in Secwepemc-Ulu. And that's an important aspect of what we're doing with the Researcher in Residence initiative, in the sense that we see ourselves as a university committed to all of the different communities that we serve. And we've been working towards a variety of different models to fulfill that kind of promise. For example, our Envision plan that we have for the university has us striving to become national leaders in community engaged research and in student research as well. And again, the Researcher in Residence initiative is a perfect vehicle for that. Sylvie, you asked a little bit about the history and context. So I'll just give you that before you move on to talking directly to our Researcher in Residence. And what Cheryl will tell you is, first of all, probably that the Researcher in Residence is not just a single person. It is a whole team of people. There's 5 students involved, 2 master's students and 3 undergraduate students. And the initiative itself is embedded in about 20 years of relationship building between the university and the city, and indeed all kinds of cultural organizations and social organizations. You mentioned the role of SSHRC and the way, well, I'll just speak to the way that SSHRC has helped prepare the ground, I think, for the Researcher in Residence model. we were fortunate to have 2 Cura grants back to back, exploring the cultural future of small cities. And I think that work, especially in terms of small cities, was really important in informing the research and residence model. There are indeed multiple kinds of residence models available. We think of the City Lab and other variations. What we were seeking was something that was specific to the small city and maybe mid-sized city experience. And those 2 SSHRC grants that we had, the 2 Curas that we had back to back, provided a kind of intellectual and practical context for that. But maybe more important, it established the relationships that have allowed for and indeed nurture the Researcher in Residence initiative. So a wide swath of preparation, as I said, about 20 years of work. What I'll stop with, though, is maybe one main point that will be of interest to the wider audience. And that is that with the Cura and with other work that we've done in the past, the focus has been almost exclusively on projects, on moving from project to project. What the Researcher in Residence initiative has brought home to us, and again, built upon all of that previous work that we've been doing, is that a team of researchers embedded 50% of the time in the city, probably a little bit more than that these days, and 50% at the university, can indeed establish a kind of a research ecosystem for the co-creation of solutions that go beyond the project. And what we're looking there for is a sustainable model of research collaboration. And we believe that we found that with the Research in Residence model.
I was, Will, I'm writing down what you just said, you know, a research ecosystem for the co-creation of solutions that go beyond the project. And so I really appreciate your sharing this very planful approach and this leadership vision for the work of small cities. And I'm interested to ask Cheryl what it was like, what it's been like for you being embedded in this role, and what's been your experience, you know, maybe compared to that vision.
Yeah, so the way it's been, the experience of being in this role has been really interesting and kind of ever changing. It's not, there's not a kind of it's one day at a time, I guess. The way that we've organized this is that we have an executive committee that's made up of some folks at the university, Suk and Will, who are here on the call, and then Barb and Tammy, as you'd mentioned, my colleagues at the city. And we've sort of sat down and put together an agenda for like what we would like to work on in the next several months together as a team. And the first year, given you know, a crisis that'll be familiar to a lot of folks around housing, there was some need to collect some data to support the development of a shelter plan and some other plans in the city. And so we were able to mobilize some students to help us collect and verify the data that existed and to add to it to support that portfolio of the city. And from that, we identified gaps in our knowledge and went about seeking to fill those gaps with additional student input and insight and projects. In that first year, and this continued this year as well, I was invited to sit in on directors and management meetings with the intent of trying to understand the pain points of these different folks in the city, so in very different departments, irrespective of the project that we were currently working on as researchers. Where are there other problems that we might map faculty and students from the campus onto those problems? So I have about 50 some odd problem areas at the city in a file, and I then go back to Suk and Will in the research department, and I'm asking, do you know researchers in these areas? Who could I contact about lending a hand to the city to address this issue or another issue? And that's one way that we sort of build connections at the city that can then be levered to bring in new people. If it is on a project by project basis, that's fine, but it's in response to a need at the city rather than a desire from a faculty member to address a problem. It comes from the bottom up. And then we were really surprised to learn the sheer number of students that were interested in participating via programs like practicums, work studies, and that sort of thing. And so we were able to map this year. We were invited to create a class, so a problem-solving class around, it was a design thinking class, but I was asked to create for a group of MBA students, and we used the city, the implementation of the new climate change action plan to get students to do some problem solving around that. And then Soup just kind of kept sending me students. We got nursing students and social work students to help on the questions around housing, and also those, as I said, those kind of questions arise, like we have this data, how do we communicate it? So I had a group of students work on anti-stigma campaigns. So we're able to, because there's interest and there's people who are interested in learning, and the students really benefited from a real world application to some of the theory they had learned in class. I had somewhat like 40 students that I was supervising on different portfolios of city research, in addition to also matching some faculty onto problems related to different topics. We get into talking what we're working on this year, which is around cultural strategic planning, which sounds quite different from housing, but there's a lot of overlap in terms of the methods by which we engage with the city and participate in the co-creation of questions. That methodology is the common thread. The topics or the questions, the challenges, they can be quite different, I think. But one thing I think we realized was really beneficial was to have a group of students trained up in community engaged research, because it's a different approach than, say, doing a lit review by yourself in a library, like sort of high touch listening skills, these kinds of things. And Suk and some colleagues in the research office have done a really good job of training up. So we have this pool of students who are ready to be deployed on cultural mapping, which is a key methodology we use, and other interview skills and that sort of thing, ethics, how to ethically engage with community members. So that's one thing that's been a central feature of this, is the sort of, it's not one faculty with one discipline. It's like a pan-university approach where we're able to leverage the resources at the university and bring them into the city in an organized fashion, increasingly organized fashion. So it might be, at this point, Suk might be able to talk a little bit about the student engagement, because I think that's a really key project. It's not just me and the 5 interns that are funded by Mitacs, but that's been leveraged to bring in more students.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, you know what, this project's been really an exciting one for us. About 5 years ago in the research office, we kind of embarked on, we've been talking a lot about the idea of program versus project, and TRU's had a lot of historical success, as Will has spoken to, 20 years of Cura and other work that's been going on where faculty do a great job of mentoring students with research projects. But there was an opportunity, as Will had referenced, when our university started to look to change our 10-year strategic goals to align with leaders in community engaged research and student training. And we embrace that opportunity with students as partners and as co-creators of what that would look like. And really what it looked like for our students is that they wanted to be part of research informed learning and what that looked like. And they wanted to use the university, as the mayor had said, they wanted to work with the city as a living laboratory, and how they can take real issues in our own backyard and be able to apply their own disciplinary thinking and ways of learning and theory into these applied research projects. So we jumped on this opportunity 5 years ago and started to really work with our faculty. We recognize that important relationship between faculty and student in terms of research mentorship, and look for opportunities where we can build in real intentional co-curricular opportunities, as well as curricular opportunities for students to be involved. And so Cheryl referenced, I kept giving her students because we just had this influx of excitement from faculty really working with us to be creative. So we provide training for students to be able to be engaged in community engaged research. And it's not specific to just those students engaged in social sciences. We have a lot of science students who see themselves as applying to medical school and doctors, and being able to work then into a project that's looking at the opioid crisis. And so those transferable skills that they would then be able to acquire to be able to interview at an undergraduate level to apply into med school it's transforming for them. And that's really key to all of this. So I think for us, really at the end of the day, was really working as a pan-university office, working with our faculty in other areas across campus, as this is a the research in residence is a university-wide initiative around what are the opportunities that we can leverage the working with the city, and in particular with Dr. Gladue, giving students these opportunities. And those arose in co-curricular opportunities through funded opportunities that students could apply for to do their own research, where they would have a faculty mentor through curricular, whether it be students doing their practicums in social work and nursing and other areas, through in the classroom. Cheryl referenced a project, but we've also provided small funds for faculty to be able to tap into, have a RA in their class to provide students in first and second year an opportunity to look at a research question and maybe just chip off a little bit of that, something that Cheryl has going on. So it's been a great pleasure to really see our students evolve through this training. We have online modules that we've created for students. Students have co-created based on what they feel that they need with us. And so we've worked with our open learning division to create some of these training modules. And for us, it's instrumental because it's about the students. And even more than that, it's fun to work with Cheryl and the team over at the city. I'll stop there.
That's great, Sue. So many innovative learning opportunities that are being created through this project. It's really amazing. And you spoke about that research mentorship between faculty and students. And I'd like to bring in Candace, who played a key role as a senior advisor in Mitacs in structuring that kind of funding to make this possible in a more sustainable way. I wonder, Candace, if you can say a few words about that from your perspective.
Absolutely, Sylvie. I wanted to start by acknowledging I'm joining today from the beautiful unceded ancestral traditional territory of the Seal people. And in the Okanagan welcoming song, they say, "We are beautiful because our land is beautiful." And I'm sitting here looking out over the Okanagan Lake today and the beauty of the valley as the snow is falling. And it's that beauty that brings us to this valley, to the Kamloops Valley, to where we choose to live and raise our families and work and play. And that's only part of it, right? It's that beauty that brings us here, but it's the community that keeps us here. And that's what's truly special about this project is it's about community and it's about relationships. And my relationship with this research team, the unique structure of Mitacs and having our business development team embedded within community, responding to community needs and helping create these projects from the ground up. It truly is community-led, co-developed, co-created projects with our team as supporters. I don't really have any oversight over how these projects come together, but to really be someone who can help support that relationship building. And now I'll say my traditional name is Kwalam Nakwala, which means I'm a resourceful, hardworking educator, but Nakwala is after my sixth grandfather, Grand Chief Nakwala, of which the Nicola Valley and river and lakes were named after, very close to the Kamloops region. And he was a great chief and one of the first to really be the bridge between the early settlers in the valley. And I only speak of this because in our role with the business development team, we really are that bridge, right? Whether it's connecting early settlers or academia and industry, it all is about relationship building with the focus of a better future for all. And that's what's unique to this project, because it's not transactional, it's relational. And I think it's really important to highlight that, because the unique relationships that Will and Suki and Cheryl have built with their local ecosystem is what makes this project successful. So we're just here to help support and fund these projects, but really it's about uplifting their voices. So this project was actually the largest that came out of our very first ever municipal call, 21 internships. And when that municipal call was first launched, it was in the midst of the pandemic, and we had been granted eligibility to work with municipalities, but it was a short time that we were granted that eligibility. And because of the incredible success and impact that we're seeing with these projects, municipalities is now a standing offer with Mitacs as an eligible project. And it's because of the success of projects like this that have opened that door to allow us to continue to work with municipalities. But it truly is about the people. And that's what makes this unique. And with the right people, the right community, and I think, Will really saying that this is a smaller to medium size city approach, it won't work for every community, because not every community has that ability to just walk down the street and knock on the mayor's door, or reach out and have the type of administrative support that TRU has experienced with this project. And now we're seeing so much uptake with this that Indigenous communities are asking how they can create their own researcher in residence program. And that just shows the importance of relationships, because it's really that commitment to uplifting the community. And something else that's very unique about this is also having the municipality being able to make data-driven decision making, right? That adds a level of legitimacy to that work, and ensuring that they truly are weaving together the voices of the people that they're there to serve. And that's really important part of this project, and also an important part of the democratic process. So I mean, I could praise this project all day, but it's truly an honor. And, we started off in our first few meetings as colleagues, but I'd go so far as to say we're now friends. And it's because of this community and having the right people and the right pieces in place to make something like this happen.
Thanks, Candice. And in your new role now as Senior Advisor of Indigenous Relations at Mitacs, did you want to say more about the potential you see for the researcher in residence model for Indigenous communities?
Absolutely. What's unique about Mitacs is our innovation pull model. So rather than pushing an academic agenda on Indigenous communities, they're pulling in that talent, right? To be able to have their real world challenges solved and have that bridge between academia and industry or community realized through these internships. And it truly is about community-led research. That's something really important in the Indigenous space, and long-term relationship building. That's exactly what this model is it's about long-term relationship building, putting the priorities of community first, and really putting all of the pieces in place within the academic institution to ensure the success of those projects, and a holistic wraparound support too, to be able to approach these projects with an interdisciplinary lens in the way that Cheryl and Will and Suki have, and bring in all of these different teams to embed capstones and different projects is very unique. And for far too long, Indigenous communities have been taxed by research. Research isn't always a good word when it comes to within the Indigenous context, understanding that historically research was done on Indigenous people and not for, with, and by, alongside Indigenous people. And a model like this truly honors that, truly honors uplifting Indigenous voices and working alongside community and prioritizing their needs. So I truly believe this is an incredible model, and Will and the team have already presented it to a community, well, actually a nation, more than one community, and incredibly positive feedback. And it's about that long-term horizon and commitment to community, commitment to advancing the needs of the communities rather than pushing an academic agenda. And that is what is unique about this. So I could see this implemented across Canada with many nations, not only Indigenous and municipal, but also organizations that are looking for those longer-term research projects where they need that embedded expertise.
Thank you, Candice. I'd like to bring in Jean-Marc Nadeau, because Jean-Marc, in his role as CEO of SUMA, he's a representative of over 400, you're a representative of over 400 municipalities in Saskatchewan. And also you're a PhD candidate at the moment. So I wonder what observations or questions you might have for the other panelists, Jean-Marc, in relation to your role, listening to the experiences that they've shared.
Well, thank you for that, Sylvie, and I do want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you today from the city of Vancouver, the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Those are very interesting questions you have, and to be honest with you, Sylvie, for me, I think SUMA has a role to play in research. As you mentioned, we have over 428 municipal members of our association in a province that has 773 municipalities. They can't all afford to do the research on their own, but yet there's huge needs for data-driven innovations. So for me and for our organization, and I know I have a colleague from Meadow Lake on the call today, so I'm going to shout out to Meadow Lake and Fern, but the fact that we have the ability to bring that kind of knowledge and research through a resident researcher, I think it's powerful. And to be able to partner with Mitacs in the future and little tidbits, we are developing our own project model for Saskatchewan. And so, and I see Rob Locke from Melfort. Good morning, because I am in Vancouver, so it's still morning here. It's important that an organization like us can bring that forward. So I've been listening intently to all the speakers this morning. I've had many conversations with JP and the people at Mitacs, and I think Shuja's online as well. It's fantastic to be able to have that opportunity, and certainly looking forward to the future on that.
So you're right that we've heard from so many different perspectives, and I remember Cheryl speaking about the project management approach that was taken in order to prioritize different projects and to come up with solutions very quickly in this action research approach. And it gives everyone who hears about it a sense of possibility. I know it did for me, because after I found out about it, I designed my own postdoctoral project based on, this idea of the researcher in residence. And I know that many of our participants have comments and questions, and I'd like to ask Jean-Philippe if there is anyone comment or question that you'd like to bring into the conversation to perhaps focus our panelists and answer some questions that people have.
Merci, Sylvie. We do have one that might be relevant maybe for Candice to answer something a little bit specific. Candice, you were talking about the funding model. We have Barry Phipps from the city of Calgary who's is asking about how the Mitacs funding system was applied, maybe a little bit specifically in this case. Maybe you can give us a sense for how the opportunity came together from a more of a funding point of view.
Absolutely. Well, Mitacs funding structure is typically a dollar for dollar cost sharing. So 50% of an internship coming from the partner organization that's matched by the other 50% from Mitacs. Of course, we can fund up to 55% of a project if it's a larger project with a multi-year time horizon. So Mitacs, I think the biggest takeaway that you could have is that we have rolling deadlines, non-competitive, with over 97% success rate. So once we have all of the eligible stakeholders within a project, we really do have a project. We are there to support every step of the way. Our national business development team is over 120 individuals, and we're embedded within community. So from those early conversations of wondering, what is Mitacs? Is this a research project? How can we embed the researcher in residence model into our community? That would be a reach out to anyone from our business development team that can help support that. And if you're also looking to connect with top talent within post-secondary institutions, because maybe you don't have Dr. Will Garrett Petts living just a few houses down, you can reach out to that business development team, and we can really be that bridge between academia and industry. I used to be a part of our business development team, and I always joked about being a professional matchmaker. And I love this analogy because we're not matchmaking for love, we're matchmaking for research and innovation. But in the importance of that relationship and ensuring that the needs on both sides are truly met in a good way. And that's part of the work that our business development team does, is finding the right people, putting the funding in place, and really supporting holistic support throughout the entire process. Partnership matchmaker. I love the analogy. And Will?
Yeah, I'll just add that it's quite true. We're not just down the street in most cases, but we're probably only a click away. And I wanted to pick up on something that Candace reminded us of, and that is that these Mitacs initiatives, and this one is also linked to a SHIRK Insight grant that I have as PI as well. So it's doubly funded along with generous financial support from the city of Kamloops. That these initiatives are research initiatives as well. That is, we are definitely setting up partnerships. We are supporting interlinked and interlaced projects that form a kind of a continuous whole and can be built upon in future years. But we're also engaged in self-reflection. And so we are studying the researcher and residence model as we're living it. And in that sense, would be delighted to talk to others who are interested in replicating some aspects of what we're doing, or have already got other models in place, and we could enter into dialogue about that. I just want to take this opportunity to thank publicly Sam Laban from the University of Guelph and the Guelph Lab, and say publicly that the work that they were doing there with the city of Guelph was a direct inspiration for some of the things that we've been doing. We've taken a different direction, and this truly is a whole of university initiative. I think Suk mentioned that it was pan-university. And if there's, to use Jean-Philippe's words, a special sauce that's involved here, that's, if at all possible, what I would recommend is that this not be embedded in a particular unit or a particular department, but this be seen as a whole of university initiative. We have some advantage in the fact that I'm a vice president of research and also an active researcher and a supervisor for this particular project. So we've stacked the deck a little bit in terms of what we're doing. But because of that, we really do want to recommend that as an approach, that it not be just a particular department or simply placing somebody and hoping for the best, that there be a wraparound approach as much as possible to support this initiative.
That's really great. And I have a question for everyone. It's so great that you're helpful. You're willing to share your experiences and insights with others. And I wonder, looking forward, what's next for this initiative, for the program? What are the next challenges that you're focusing on, and how are you structuring things moving forward? This is for anyone.
I'm going to volunteer Cheryl to talk about the transition that she's making, which is a very fortunate transition, but it also helps us begin to think about possible futures as well.
Yeah, this is something that came up earlier in the discussions, the idea of permanence. So it's not unusual to do these kinds of projects as one-off exercises in experimenting or innovation in research. But from the start, I wanted to live in Kamloops indefinitely. And well, as long as I feel comfortable, I guess, as long as the temperature doesn't keep getting higher, but here we are. Yeah, the idea was like how to make this position or a version of this permanent.